He was a billionaire, powerful, respected, admired by all. But one encounter with a barefoot beggar woman and her twin boys shook his world. She looked familiar, too familiar, and when he realized who she was, what he did next shocked everyone. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment if this story touches your heart. Now let's step into this powerful story of love, regret, and redemption. The sun was hot that afternoon, and the streets of Lagos were as noisy as ever. Cars honked non-stop, Danfo buses screamed for passengers, and hawkers weaved between traffic shouting, "Pure water, gala, cold minerals." Victor stepped out of his black Range Rover, shielding his eyes with designer sunglasses. He looked sharp in his clean white shirt and navy blue trousers, his wristwatch alone worth more than what most people made in a year. People noticed him, whispers followed. He didn't come with his usual escort or tinted security SUVs. Today felt different. He wanted to be alone with his thoughts, to revisit the streets that raised him, the ones that reminded him of who he used to be before wealth came knocking. He had told his driver to stop by a roadside food joint. He wanted roasted plantain and groundnut, something he hadn't tasted in years. "Boli and groundnut," he said with a nostalgic smile. It reminded him of when he used to count every naira. As he waited for his food to be wrapped, something unusual pulled at him. Just across the road, next to a wall with peeling posters, sat a woman on the bare ground. Her wrapper was faded and torn at the edge. Her feet were dusty. She looked tired, not just the kind of tired that comes from walking, but the kind that comes from carrying the weight of life. Beside her sat two boys, twins, thin, dusty, barefoot. Their clothes were oversized and mismatched. They were sharing a half loaf of bread and staring at the world like it owed them an explanation. Victor looked at them, then at her. There was something familiar about her face. He took off his sunglasses slowly. She raised her head, just for a moment. Their eyes met, and his heart skipped. No, it couldn't be. He stepped closer. The world around him faded, the traffic, the noise, the food sellers shouting. All he could hear was his heartbeat. "Anita?" he whispered, his voice cracking slightly. She looked away immediately, then began packing her things in a panic. She tied a black nylon bag, grabbed the boy's hands, and stood up. Victor walked faster. "Anita, it's me." "Victor," she froze, then slowly, painfully, she turned her head. Her eyes were tired, her lips dry. But he saw it, the scar near her left cheek, the one she got in secondary school from a broken mirror. Her skin was darker now from the sun, her figure smaller, thinner, but it was her. Anita, the woman he once loved, the woman who disappeared without a word. Victor stared at her, speechless. His mind was spinning. He hadn't seen her in over 7 years. She vanished when things were hard. He thought she left because of poverty, because he couldn't give her the life she deserved. He searched everywhere for her, went to her family, but they said they hadn't seen her. He called every number he had. Nothing, no note, no explanation. But now, here she was. A beggar, on the street, with 2 twin boys. Victor took another step forward, eyes still locked on her. Why did you leave?" he asked, voice low. "What happened to you?" Her lips trembled. She pushed the boys gently behind her and whispered, "Please, go. Don't come near us." Victor blinked. "I just want to talk." "I said leave," she snapped. Her voice was sharp, shaky. "Go back to your big car, your rich life. We don't belong in your world." People started looking. A few hawkers slowed down. Victor stepped back, confused. "Anita, are those my children?" She didn't answer. He looked at the boys again. Their eyes, they looked like his. Same nose, same skin tone, same tired seriousness he carried when he was a child. He was shaking now. She grabbed the boy's hands and hurried off. Victor stood frozen for a moment, then quickly paid for the plantain, jumped into his car and told the driver, "Follow that woman, slowly, don't let her see us." They followed from a distance. Anita didn't take the main road. She cut through narrow alleys, crossed a small dirty stream on a wooden plank, and walked into a forgotten part of town. Victor's heart broke as he watched her stop in front of an abandoned building. The walls were cracked, The windows broken, the gate hung loosely like it had given up on standing. She entered, with her sons. Victor sat in his car and stared. This is where she's been living? He rested his head against the seat. His chest felt tight. That night, back in his mansion, surrounded by marble floors, chandeliers and silence, he couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He sat in his home office, staring at a photo on his desk. A picture of him during his university days. Anita was in that photo, standing beside him, her hand on his shoulder. They were smiling, poor but in love. He remembered the way she used to encourage him, how she would wait outside his small cyber cafe job every evening, how she would tell him, "Even if you don't have a dime, I believe in your dreams." But she left, or so he thought. Now he wasn't so sure. Why did she run? Why didn't she tell him? And most importantly, were those really his sons? Victor stood from the chair, walked to the window, and looked out into the quiet night sky. One thing was certain, he wasn't going to rest until he found out the truth. 8 years ago, life was completely different for Victor. He wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't even comfortable. He was just a struggling young man with a big dream and a small laptop. Victor lived in a one-room apartment in Ajagunle. The walls were cracked, the ceiling leaked during rainy season, and the fan made more noise than wind. But he didn't care, because he had Anita. And Anita made that small room feel like heaven. She was his peace in the middle of chaos. Victor had started a small tech hustle, building websites, managing social media pages for shops and small businesses. Most times, clients refused to pay. Some would owe him for months. Still, Anita always believed in him. She would bring him food from her mother's house. Rice, stew, sometimes beans and Gary. She never complained. She would even stay up late, sitting beside him with a hand fan, chasing mosquitoes while he typed away on his laptop. Victor loved her with his whole heart. One night, as they sat outside under the moonlight, Anita held his hand and said, "I know you'll make it. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I believe in you, Victor." Those words stayed with him, even during the darkest days. When people mocked him, when clients insulted him, when he had to borrow money just to survive, he would remember her words, and they kept him going. Victor had promised her, "One day I'll take you away from all this, you'll never suffer again." They talked about the future often, about building a home together, having kids, starting a business. Anita once said she wanted twin boys. They both laughed and joked about what their names would be. Then suddenly, one day, she was gone. Victor woke up to find her number switched off. He thought it was a network issue. But the next day, still nothing. He rushed to her mother's house. They said she had left town. No explanation, no forwarding address. He went to the police. They told him to wait 48 hours. He waited, then waited more. He printed flyers, called old friends, searched Facebook, even traveled to her hometown once, but nothing. It was like she disappeared into thin air. He thought maybe she got tired, maybe poverty was too much for her. Maybe she found someone richer. Victor was heartbroken. He stopped smiling. He stopped believing in love. The same woman who once called him her future had walked away without looking back, or so he thought. He buried himself in work. Day and night, he worked like a madman. Slept less, ate less, but coded more, hustled harder, chased every business opportunity. And slowly, things began to change. His breakthrough came when he built a payment app that went viral among online vendors. Investors came, contracts followed. He started hiring staff. Then came the big company deals. By 31, Victor was already on the cover of business magazines. He moved into a mansion, started driving luxury cars. He was celebrated across Nigeria. But inside, he still felt empty. No matter how many awards he won, no matter how many women tried to date him, none of it filled the space Anita left. He never loved anyone again. Not the same way. Sometimes, when things got quiet, he would sit by the window of his mansion and wonder, where did she go? Why did she leave without saying goodbye? He wished he could ask her, even once. And now, after all these years, he had seen her again. But this time she wasn't the happy, confident girl he knew. She was a shadow of herself, begging on the street with 2 children who looked just like him. Victor didn't know whether to be angry, sad, or confused. Was she in trouble back then? Did something force her to leave? Were the twins his? Why didn't she ever try to find him? That night, he couldn't eat. He paced his room like a lion. He thought of all the people who came and went in his life, fake friends, opportunists, women who only wanted his money. But Anita, she was different. She loved him when he had nothing. And now she had nothing. Victor walked to his desk, picked up a framed photo of his younger self. It was taken at a birthday party Anita organized for him when he turned 25. The cake was small, but the smile on their faces was pure. "I have to see her again," he whispered to himself. "I need to know the full truth." His mind was made up. The next morning, before the sun even rose, Victor dressed in plain clothes, grabbed a cab, and asked his driver to take him back to that abandoned building. He didn't know what he would say yet, but one thing was clear. He was not going to lose her again. Victor stood quietly beside the gate of the old broken building. It was early morning. The street was still quiet. Roosters crowed in the distance. He wore a face cap, low and simple clothes, just to avoid attention. He took a deep breath and walked in. The place looked worse than it did from the outside. The floor was dusty, the walls full of cracks. There was no light, just faint morning sun squeezing through holes in the wall. He followed the sound of quiet voices and soon saw them, Anita and the boys, in a corner of the large empty hall. She was folding a blanket. The boys were brushing their teeth with chewing sticks. They didn't notice him yet. Victor stood there, silently watching them. His heart felt heavy. Anita looked different now, worn out, thinner, but still graceful. She tied her wrapper tighter around her chest and turned, and saw him. She froze. Victor stepped forward slowly. "Please, I'm not here to fight, I just want to talk." Anita looked down. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to come," Victor said gently. "I couldn't sleep. Not after seeing you like this." She sat down slowly on a broken stool and sighed. "What do you want from me, Victor?" He looked around at the cracked walls, the broken windows, the two boys brushing beside a rusted drum. "You don't belong here," he said. "This is not your life. What happened to you?" Anita was quiet for a long time. Then she finally spoke. "I didn't leave you because I wanted to," she said. "I left because I was forced to." Victor leaned forward. "By who?" She looked at him. Her eyes were wet. "You won't believe it." "Try me." She took a deep breath. "Back then, when things were tough for you, someone close to you came to me. I was already 1 month pregnant. I hadn't told you yet. I wanted to wait for the right time." Victor's eyes widened. "You were pregnant?" Anita nodded. "Yes, I was happy. I thought we would build a family together. But then, your mother called me to her house." Victor blinked in shock. "My mother?" Anita looked him in the eye. "She said I was bad luck, that since I came into your life, things only got worse for you. She said I was the reason you were still struggling, and that if I didn't disappear, she would have me arrested. She threatened me, Victor." Victor's body stiffened, his jaw clenched. "I was scared," she continued. "I didn't have anyone. My family had already abandoned me when they found out I was pregnant. Your mother looked serious. She even showed me a fake police file and said, 'I'll lock you up and nobody will find you.' I believed her." Tears ran down her face now. "So I left. I ran. I didn't even collect my things. I just disappeared. I thought it was the only way to protect myself. And the baby." Victor sat in silence. His hands were shaking. The boys now sat beside their mother. They looked confused but stayed quiet. Victor finally looked at the twins. "They're mine, aren't they?" Anita nodded slowly. "Yes, your sons." He swallowed hard. The truth hit him like thunder. All these years he thought she abandoned him. Meanwhile, she was hiding, suffering, raising his children alone. "I named them Michael and Matthew," she said softly. "I told them their father was brave, kind, and that one day they would meet him." Victor covered his face with his hands. He didn't know whether to cry or scream. "I wanted to find you," Anita added, "but I had no money, no phone, nothing. I lived in people's sheds, then here. I begged to feed them. Sometimes I sold pure water at traffic." Other times I cleaned shops, but I survived. For them. Victor stood up and walked to the window, breathing heavily. He looked outside at the dirty, forgotten street, and then back at the woman who once gave him everything. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry, Anita. I didn't know." She shook her head. "It's not your fault." "No," he said firmly. "It is. I should have looked harder. I should have known something wasn't right." There was a long silence. The boys played with stones in the corner. Victor turned to her. "I want to be part of their lives. I want to help you. Please let me." Anita looked down. "I don't want pity." "It's not pity, it's responsibility," Victor said. "And love." She looked up, surprised. "Yes," he said. "I still love you, Anita, and I will not walk away this time." Her lips trembled. She held back her tears. Victor knelt down beside the boys. "Hi, I'm Victor." One of them smiled. "We know. Mommy told us stories about you." Victor smiled, his first real smile in years. "I'd like to tell you some stories too, if that's okay." Anita watched him. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon, 8 years ago. Anita had just returned from the market. Her face was sweaty, and she carried a nylon bag with tomatoes and dry pepper. She was in Victor's small apartment, preparing food. She was smiling to herself, thinking of how to tell him the big news that evening, that she was pregnant. She imagined his reaction. He would be shocked at first, then happy, then start planning immediately, like he always did. But before she could finish chopping onions, there was a knock on the door. Not just a knock, a loud, impatient bang. She wiped her hands, walked to the door, and opened it. Standing there was a woman in a flowing blue lace gown, gold earrings, and sharp eyes. She looked rich and angry. It was Victor's mother. Anita stepped back in surprise. "Good afternoon, Ma." The woman walked in without responding. She looked around the small room with disgust. "So this is where you've been hiding my son," she said. "Like a rat?" "Ma, I don't understand," Anita said quietly, her heart racing. "Shut up and listen," the woman snapped. "You've destroyed my son's life. Since you entered it, nothing has gone well for him. Business is not moving. Money is not coming in. He's always distracted, following you around like a lost puppy." Anita tried to speak, but the woman raised her hand to stop her. "You think you're smart, right? Chasing after a man with a future? Let me tell you something. You're not wife material. You're nothing but bad luck." Tears filled Anita's eyes. "I love him, Ma. I've never used him or distracted him. I've always supported." "Spare me the acting," Victor's mother shouted. "I know your type. You trap men with fake love and empty wombs. Or wait, are you already pregnant?" Anita froze. The woman saw her face and smirked. "Ah, I see, you are. What a shame." "Please, Ma," Anita whispered, "don't do this. I love Victor with my whole heart." The woman's face hardened. She opened her bag and brought out a small file. "This is a police contact. If you don't leave my son, I will call them. You'll be arrested for blackmail. I'll tell them you tried to force my son into marriage with a pregnancy lie. Do you know who I am? Nobody will listen to you. No one will come for you." Anita began to tremble. "Please, leave. Now before I ruin you." The woman walked closer, her voice now cold and quiet. "You will disappear. You will not call him. You will not send him any message. If you ever come near my son again, I will make sure you regret it." She turned and left, slamming the door behind her. Anita collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Her heart was breaking into pieces. The food on the fire began to burn, but she didn't care. She stayed there for almost 2 hours, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. She couldn't call Victor. What if his mother was serious? What if he believed her lies? She was pregnant, alone, broke, and now threatened by the only family Victor had. By evening, she packed what she could into a small bag and left the apartment without a word. Back in the present, Victor sat in his car, parked just outside the same neighborhood where Anita first told him her story. He was boiling with anger. He remembered how his mother used to change the topic every time he mentioned Anita back then. He remembered how she said, "That girl left because she saw you would never make it." But now he knew the truth. His own mother had chased the woman he loved away, and with her, his 2 children. Victor sat quietly in the back seat of his car, his jaw tight, hands clenched into fists. The driver looked at him through the rearview mirror, but said nothing. He stared out the window, watching people pass by, his mind boiling with anger. So all these years, it wasn't betrayal, it was sabotage. From his own mother. He took a deep breath, pulled out his phone and dialed. "Hello, Mum. I'm coming to see you, right now." Victor returned to the abandoned building the next morning, but this time he came prepared. He wore plain jeans, a polo shirt, and a cap. Nothing flashy. No expensive watch, no designer shoes, no security men. He carried a black backpack and had asked his driver to wait 2 streets away. Inside the bag were food items, clean clothes, bottled water, and some medicine he picked up from a pharmacy. One of the twins had coughed during his last visit, and he hadn't stopped thinking about it since. As he stepped into the building, he saw Anita sweeping the dusty floor with a worn-out broom. The boys were still asleep, curled up on a thin mat. She looked up and was surprised to see him. "You again?" she asked, brushing hair from her face. "I told you I'm not going anywhere," Victor said, smiling gently. "I brought a few things." He opened the bag and slowly laid everything out on the floor, packs of noodles, bread, soap, toothpaste, small t-shirts and shorts for the boys, a bottle of malaria medicine and some vitamins. Anita stared at the items, speechless. "I'm not trying to insult you," Victor said quickly. "I just want to help. Let me help, even if it's small." She swallowed hard. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I should have been there all these years. And because you did everything alone," he said. "Now I want to be part of their lives." She hesitated. "You've been coming here every day with food, medicine, clothes," she said slowly. "Are you sure you're not struggling because of us?" Victor smiled gently. "I'm managing," he said. "Things haven't exactly been great. I had a business deal that went bad a while back. Things are not the way they used to be." She nodded, accepting his words. "I understand. That's life. It goes up and down. You still showing up like this? It means a lot." "I'm not rich or anything right now," Victor added, "but I have enough to keep going. And to help, even if it's small." Anita gave a small smile and looked down. "Thank you." That day, Victor stayed for hours. He helped clean the space and even washed the boys' worn clothes outside in a basin. The twins, Michael and Matthew, warmed up to him fast. They asked him endless questions about his shoes, his phone, what he did for work. He told them simple stories about his small computer job and made them laugh. He didn't mention cars or companies. He just sat on the floor and played with them, as if he was just another man trying to reconnect with his kids. Anita sat in the corner watching, silent most of the time. Her face was calm, but her eyes said a lot. Confusion, sadness, maybe hope. Later that afternoon, as they all sat eating bread and tea, Anita finally asked, "Are you married?" Victor shook his head. "No." "Engaged?" "Nope." "Why?" she asked, raising a brow. He looked down. "Because no one ever measured up to you. And honestly, I didn't let anyone get too close." Anita looked away quickly. "It's been years, Victor. People change." "True, but the heart remembers." The silence between them was soft but deep. That evening, Victor walked back to his car. He felt both heavy and light, heavy from the pain Anita had carried for so long. But light, because he had found her again, and she wasn't bitter. She hadn't turned into someone else. She was still Anita, stronger, quieter, but still full of heart. That night he sat in his mansion, staring at the ceiling. He could easily move her into a luxury apartment tomorrow. He could write a check that would change her life. But something inside him said, "Wait, watch. Let her know you, not your bank account." So the next morning he went back again, and the next, and the next. Each time he brought something small, a new mat, mosquito net, school exercise books. Each time she accepted it with a nod, never asking for more, never demanding, never acting like she deserved pity. One day he saw her in the back of the building, washing clothes by hand. He offered to help, but she laughed. "Ah, big man like you. You want to wash clothes?" He smiled. "You don't know the things I've done before. I even once cleaned gutters in Surulere for 5,000 naira. She chuckled. That was the first time he heard her laugh since their reunion. As the sun set that evening, Michael and Matthew ran to hug Victor goodbye. Are you coming back tomorrow? They asked. Of course, he said, hugging them back. Anita stood by the doorway, arms folded. You've changed, Victor, he nodded. And you survived. That's powerful. They stared at each other for a long moment, not talking, just remembering. Victor walked away again, but this time with a quiet smile. The test wasn't over. But so far, her heart was still gold. Victor stood in front of the gate to his mother's house. The sun was rising, casting a golden light on the walls. He hadn't been here in almost a year. Not because he was too busy, but because the connection between him and his mother had grown distant. Today, he wasn't here as a son. He was here for justice. He took a deep breath and knocked. A few seconds later, the door opened. Victor, his mother said with a bright smile, surprised. She stepped forward to hug him. My son, you didn't even call. I didn't come for greetings, Mum, Victor said, stepping past her. We need to talk. The smile on her face faded. Okay. Sit down. What's wrong? Victor sat on the brown leather couch. He didn't touch the glass of juice she brought. He looked her straight in the eyes. I saw Anita. His mother froze. Who? Anita, he repeated. The woman I loved. The woman you chased away. Her expression changed quickly. Victor, that girl left you years ago. I told you. She wasn't serious. She used you and disappeared. She didn't disappear, Victor said, his voice cold. You threatened her. You told her she was bad luck. You said you'd get her arrested if she didn't leave me. His mother's eyes flickered. She tried to speak, but Victor continued. She was pregnant. Did you know that? He asked. She left carrying my children. She's been living in an abandoned building with twin boys, your grandchildren. His mother gasped. What? Yes, Victor said, his voice rising. Twin boys. Your blood, and they've been suffering, eating leftover bread, sleeping on the floor, while you were here, drinking tea and praising yourself for protecting your son. His mother stood up, flustered. Victor, I only did what I thought was right. She was holding you back. You were struggling. I was scared she would trap you with a child. Victor stood too. His voice was sharper now. No, Mum, you weren't protecting me. You were controlling me. Victor, I'm your mother, she said. And I'm a father, he shouted. A father who didn't even know his children existed because his own mother decided they weren't good enough. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't know she was pregnant. She never told me. You didn't give her the chance, Victor snapped. You bullied her, threatened her, lied to me for years, and I believed you. I thought she abandoned me. I hated her. But all along, it was you. She sank back into the chair, her hands shaking. I didn't mean to destroy anything. But you did, Victor said. You destroyed my relationship. You made me think love was fake. You made me believe she betrayed me. And you left my children to suffer like animals. Silence filled the room. The only sound was the ticking wall clock and the distant cry of a baby from a neighbor's house. I've seen them, Victor said more quietly now. They're good kids, smart, full of life. Anita raised them on the streets, but she still taught them to respect people. They know about me. She never badmouthed me, not once. His mother wiped her tears. Can I see them? Victor shook his head. Not now. Please, she whispered, they're my grandchildren. You didn't think about that when you sent their mother away, Victor replied. I need time. They need time. Anita doesn't even know I'm rich yet. She thinks I'm still an ordinary man trying to make it. And honestly, I like it that way. His mother looked up at him, confused. Why? Because I want to rebuild what you destroyed, not with money, but with love and truth. She covered her face and cried softly. Victor picked up his car keys. I'm not here to curse you, Mum. I just wanted you to know what you did. I've spent years thinking I wasn't good enough for her, that I was abandoned. But now I see, it wasn't my failure. It was yours. He walked toward the door. She stood up weakly. Victor, she called, I'm sorry. He paused, looked back for a moment, then opened the door. Sorry won't fix it, he said. but maybe time will." And with that, he walked out. As the door closed behind him, his mother sank into the chair, holding her chest, silently crying into her wrapper. Victor didn't look back. He stepped into his car, sat in silence for a few seconds, then said to his driver, "Let's go." "Back to the office, sir?" the driver asked. Victor shook his head. "Number, take me to Anita." It was a cool Saturday morning. The sky was cloudy and the breeze danced through the open windows of the abandoned building. Victor arrived early, as usual. He now came every morning, sometimes bringing breakfast, sometimes just showing up to sweep or play with the twins. The boys loved him. They waited for him at the gate every day like he was a superhero. This time, he brought something different: a printed file. Inside were house keys, a rental document, and photos of a clean two-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of town. Nothing too fancy, just simple and safe, with running water, good toilets, and a real roof. When he stepped inside, Anita was cooking with firewood. Her face lit up when she saw him, but she quickly returned her focus to the pot. "You're early," she said. "I had something to give you," he replied, holding up the folder. She turned and looked at it, curious. "What's that?" Victor walked over and placed the file gently on a dry wooden table. "It's a new place," he said softly. "Clean, safe, close to a school. You and the boys can move in. No rent worries. No rain leaking on your bed." Anita didn't say a word. She opened the folder and stared at the pictures inside. The apartment was neat. Tiled floors, a small balcony, a working kitchen. Her lips trembled. She closed the folder. "No," Victor blinked. "No? I'm not going," she said firmly. "Why?" he asked. "It's safe. It's yours. You need this." "I don't need pity," she said sharply. "Or charity." Victor took a breath. "This is not charity. It's love and responsibility." "I've survived this far," Anita said. "If I move in today, what happens tomorrow? What if you change your mind? What if your mother hears and chases us again? What if—" "I won't change my mind," he interrupted. "And my mother doesn't control anything anymore." Anita folded her arms. "You don't understand. I've begged on the street. I've washed toilets to feed those boys. I've been insulted by strangers. And now, suddenly, a miracle shows up, just like that." Victor stepped closer. "Yes, just like that. Sometimes God brings healing through people." She shook her head. "You're not God." "No," he replied, "but I'm the man who should have been here from the start." She looked away, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. "I want to believe you. I really do. But I'm scared. Scared that I'll wake up one day and it'll all disappear." Victor said nothing. He understood. Trust wasn't built in a week, not after 8 years of pain, so he left the folder on the table. "No pressure," he said gently. "Look at it when you're ready. If you decide to go, just call me." He turned to leave. As he stepped outside, one of the twins, Matthew, ran to him, coughing hard. Victor knelt quickly. "What's wrong?" The boy couldn't speak clearly. His chest heaved and his lips looked pale. Anita rushed forward. "He's been coughing all night," she said, panicked. "I gave him herbs, but it's not helping." Victor picked him up without another word. "Let's go. I'm taking him to the hospital." "No," Anita said, hesitating. "Hospitals are expensive." "I said let's go." They rushed into the car. Victor called a doctor on the way. Thankfully, the private clinic was nearby. Within minutes, Matthew was in a small ward, receiving oxygen and proper medication. The doctor said it was a strong chest infection, worsened by cold and exposure. "He's lucky you brought him when you did," the doctor said. "Another day, it would have been serious." Anita sat quietly beside the hospital bed, holding Matthew's hand. Victor stood in the corner, arms folded, watching. Hours passed. By evening, the boy was stable and sleeping peacefully. Victor walked over and sat beside her. "No child should live in fear of dying from cold," he said quietly. "You've done your best, Anita, but it's time to let someone help." She nodded slowly, eyes red. "I'll go." Victor looked at her, surprised. "We'll move into the apartment," she said. "Not because I trust everything yet, but because my son almost died today. I won't let that happen again." Victor smiled slightly. That's all I ask. The next day, he arranged a moving van. There wasn't much to pack, just a few bags, a mat, a cooking pot. But as they entered the new apartment for the first time, the twins screamed with joy. We have a bed, and a toilet, and a fridge. Anita stood in the center of the small living room, looking around in silence. The floors were tiled, the windows had curtains, the tap ran clean water. It felt like a dream. Victor handed her the keys. You're home. She looked up at him. Thank you. No need for thanks, he said. This is just the beginning. The new apartment wasn't huge, just 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a living room. But to Anita and the boys, it felt like paradise. There were no rats, no leaking roof, no broken windows. The taps ran clean water, and the toilet flushed properly. For the first time in years, Anita didn't have to bathe her children outside or boil water over a fire in a rusted pot. She moved in with just a black nylon bag, a plastic bowl, and the boys' worn-out clothes. But Victor made sure the house was already furnished with basics: a mattress, some chairs, mosquito nets, and even a small television. When the boys stepped in and saw the remote, they screamed, "Mommy, it has cartoon." Anita sat on the edge of the bed that night, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above her head. It felt surreal. She hadn't slept in a room with a ceiling fan in years. She turned to look at the boys, already deep in sleep, wrapped in clean bedsheets. Her heart softened. She whispered, "Thank you, God." The next morning, Victor came by, carrying a small sack of groceries and 2 school backpacks. "I hope you don't mind," he said as he entered. "They'll be starting school soon." Anita looked at the bags, speechless. "They have crayons, books, socks, sandals, everything. Just something to start." Anita nodded slowly. "You've done so much already." "And I'll keep doing more," Victor said gently. He then added, "We'll go to the school together. I've already checked out a nearby one. It's clean, safe, and the teachers are kind. The boys will like it." She looked at him. "You already checked?" He smiled. "I want to be involved in everything. I wasn't there when they took their first steps, but I'll be there for their next ones." That week, Victor went with Anita to the school. He helped with the registration and paid the full fees right there. When Anita tried to say something, he simply raised his hand and said, "Let me do this. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just trying to be present." Anita looked at him and nodded. "Thank you." The twins started school 2 days later. They wore matching white shirts and blue shorts. Anita wiped tears from her eyes as she waved them goodbye at the gate. "They're growing fast," Victor said beside her. "I still can't believe any of this is real," Anita whispered. "It feels like I've been dreaming since you returned." Victor looked at her. "It's not a dream. You deserve this life, and so do they." He visited often, sometimes dropping snacks, sometimes just coming to chat. But he always came with calm, no pride, no pressure. And slowly, Anita's walls began to fall. One morning, Victor came in and found her in the kitchen, humming a tune while flipping pancakes. "You're singing now?" he asked, surprised. She turned and smiled, a real smile this time. "I guess I forgot what joy sounds like." He smiled back. "It suits you." They sat down for breakfast together. The twins talked non-stop about school, a teacher who spoke too fast, a boy who stole pencils, and how they wanted to become like Daddy Victor when they grew up. "What does Daddy Victor even do?" Anita asked, teasing. Victor chuckled. "Let's just say, I help people with computers." The twins laughed. Later that day, Anita stepped outside with Victor while the boys played inside. She stood on the balcony, arms folded. "I feel like I'm dreaming," she said, "like someone will knock on the door and say it's all a mistake." Victor leaned on the rail. "It's not a mistake. You earned this peace. You fought for it." Anita looked at him. "Do you know how many nights I begged God not to let my children die in their sleep? From hunger, from cold, from sickness." Victor looked down. "I'm so sorry, Anita. I should have been there." "You couldn't have known," she said quietly. "Your mother made sure of that." Victor clenched his jaw but stayed calm. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." She nodded. "I'm beginning to believe you." One evening, as Victor prepared to leave, the twins ran to hug him like they always did. "Uncle Victor," Matthew asked, "do we really have your eyes?" Victor smiled. "Not just my eyes, you have my heart too." Michael added, "So, can we call you Daddy now?" Victor bent down slowly and held them close. "You don't need to ask. I am your father, and nothing in this world will ever change that." Anita watched from the doorway, her eyes filled with tears, not from pain this time, but from healing. For the first time in years, she felt whole again. The ballroom at Victoria Grand Hotel was glowing. Golden chandeliers lit up the space. Guests in tuxedos and sequined gowns sipped wine, posed for photos, and discussed business. Journalists moved between tables, taking pictures and whispering about the surprise speaker expected to close the night. It was the annual charity gala hosted by Victor Adewale Foundation, an event that gathered CEOs, investors, and dignitaries from across the country. Victor stood behind the curtain, dressed in a simple black suit. He looked calm, but his heart beat faster than usual. This wasn't like his past speeches. This one wasn't about profits or progress reports. It was personal. Backstage, Anita stood beside him in a modest but elegant blue dress. Her hair was neatly braided, her makeup soft. She held the hands of the twins, both boys dressed in white shirts, black pants, and tiny dress shoes. Anita whispered nervously, "Victor, are you sure about this?" He turned to her and smiled. "Absolutely. No more hiding, no more secrets." She looked unsure. "But people like you don't usually stand beside people like me. They'll talk." "Let them," Victor replied. "Tonight, the world will know who my heart beats for." She smiled faintly, eyes misty. A few minutes later, the MC tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man of the hour, founder of V-Tech Systems and the Victor Adewale Foundation, Mr. Victor Adewale." The crowd clapped as Victor stepped out under the spotlight. He walked slowly to the podium, scanning the room filled with flashing cameras and curious eyes. He took a deep breath. "Good evening, everyone," he began. "Thank you for being here tonight. You all know me as a businessman, an innovator, or maybe just a lucky guy who made it." Laughter from the crowd. "But tonight, I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about second chances." The room grew quiet. "Many years ago, I loved someone deeply. We dreamed together, suffered together. But due to lies and interference, I lost her. Or so I thought." A few people began whispering. Victor continued. "By the time I found her again, she was no longer the girl I once knew. She had become a woman, a warrior, a mother." Gasps. Victor looked toward the edge of the stage. The spotlight followed his gaze. "Please welcome Anita." Anita stepped forward slowly, one hand holding Michael, the other holding Matthew. She looked nervous, but walked with grace. Whispers exploded across the room. "That's her. Is that his wife? Where has she been?" Victor continued, his voice proud. "For 8 years, this woman raised my sons on the street. She protected them, fed them, taught them love, even when she had nothing." Some people gasped, others reached for tissues. "She didn't know I was a billionaire when I found her again. And even when I offered help, she refused it at first. Not out of pride, but because she didn't want pity. She only wanted peace." The hall fell completely silent. "I'm proud to tell you that these 2 young boys beside her are my sons." Applause began, soft at first, then louder. Victor continued, "I missed their first steps, their first words. But I won't miss another moment again. Tonight, I'm not just introducing them to you, I'm claiming them as my family, my home." The audience stood up. Anita's eyes were full of tears. The boys clapped excitedly, not fully understanding the weight of the moment. Victor wasn't finished. "In honor of her strength, I'm launching a new project, the Anita Grant, which will support struggling single mothers across Nigeria. It's time we stop shaming women for surviving. It's time we start helping." The crowd erupted into cheers. Businessmen who once mocked Victor for being single nodded in respect. Women who whispered about his mystery life wiped their eyes. Victor stepped down from the podium and stood beside Anita and the boys. He took her hand. She looked at him, speechless. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" He smiled. "For not hiding me." Victor leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. Never again. Flashes from cameras filled the room, but neither of them looked at the crowd anymore. They were locked in the moment. A man who almost lost everything, and a woman who never stopped fighting. Together they walked off the stage, hand in hand. This time not in shame, but in victory. It had been 6 months since the night of the charity gala. 6 months since the world found out who Anita was. 6 months since Victor stopped hiding the people who meant the most to him. Life had changed, not just for Victor, but for Anita and the boys too. They now lived in Victor's mansion, the same one that once felt silent and empty. But now it was full of laughter, footsteps, the smell of food, and love. The grand rooms didn't feel cold anymore. The house had finally become a home. Anita had blossomed. She had taken short business courses and now worked closely with the Anita Grant Foundation, helping other struggling single mothers. She wasn't just Victor's partner, she had become a voice of hope. One afternoon she stood in front of a packed hall, speaking to hundreds of women. Her voice was clear, her story powerful. She spoke of survival, from street corners to success, and when she finished, the entire room stood to clap. Back at home, Victor was in the kitchen with the boys, wearing an apron and frying plantain. Michael shouted, "It's too brown." Matthew added, "Mommy's own is better." Victor laughed, "That's because Mommy's a pro. I'm just trying not to burn the house." When Anita returned home, she found the dining table set, with juice boxes for the boys and a tray of plantain and eggs. As they all sat and ate together, Victor looked at Anita in a way she hadn't seen in years, calm, content, and certain. He had been carrying something in his pocket all day, a small black box. Later that night, after the kids had gone to bed, Victor asked her to step outside with him. The backyard was quiet, the moon high, the grass cool beneath their feet. Anita crossed her arms. "You're acting suspicious." Victor grinned, just taking in the night air and thinking. "About what?" she asked. He reached into his pocket. "About time. Time I've wasted. Time I want to spend right." He opened the box slowly. Inside was a simple, beautiful ring, the kind that didn't shout, but spoke deeply. Anita's eyes widened. "I didn't get to be there when you needed me most," Victor said softly. "I didn't get to walk beside you when the world turned its back. But I want to walk with you now. Forever." She covered her mouth, tears already forming. Victor knelt down. "Please, Anita, marry me." She nodded, unable to speak at first. Then she whispered, "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." He stood and hugged her tightly, holding her like the past couldn't touch them anymore. From the upstairs window, 2 little faces peeked out. "Is he doing what I think he's doing?" Michael whispered. Matthew whispered back, "That's definitely a yes." They both laughed and rushed back to bed, pretending to be asleep before their parents caught them spying. A few months later, the family took a quiet trip to Obudu. It wasn't about showing off. It was about peace, waterfalls, fresh air, silence. Family. Victor didn't post pictures. Anita didn't carry makeup kits. The boys ran barefoot across fields. They played with other children, ate roasted corn, and told stories around a bonfire. One evening, the family sat under a tall tree, watching the sun fade behind the hills. Victor looked at Anita. "You made me a better man." Anita smiled and leaned into him. "And you made me believe in love again." They sat in silence for a while, watching the boys play. Anita reached for his hand. He didn't speak. He just squeezed her hand gently, the way a man holds on to what he almost lost and will never take for granted again. The mansion that once held only silence now echoed with laughter. The rooms that once felt cold now breathed with warmth. The man who once thought he had everything finally had everything that truly mattered.